Hi everyone. As promised, I am reporting, not live, but recorded. You can pretend you're sitting here with me. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my thoughts surrounding today's new moon in Gemini. I posted the Chandra symbol and the Sabian symbol for this astrological event to just give you a unique perspective on some of the energies that we'll be experiencing through this time, through this new moon portal. And one thing that I wanted to kind of expand on was a little blurb that I wrote in my post from yesterday, and in case you missed it, breakthrough, not away. An exploration into new forms. Nurture and nourish the young, spry, kindling within. Your inner child keeps the keeper's flame ablaze. All we need is a fresh spark here and there to follow up reflections on the trail we have blazed thus far. The fire suffocates the longer it's left to smolder. We need new friction disguised as play and creativity. So with this, we're kind of in the space of duality. You know, we're considering Gemini, the twins, a separation or a breaking out of a force into many facets. I think I mentioned the concept of the sun rays through the blinds when I was doing reading just a few days ago. And it's kind of that. It's like we may be here now, but we're in this retrograde period. We're in this new moon portal, and we're experiencing things again, things that feel very familiar, or things are re-emerging that we once thought we already dealt with. Now, granted, I feel like this has really kind of been what we've been going through since we've been called to stay home. But even more so as the planets kind of align to meet this message. And so what we're experiencing is an interesting, because new moons are about new beginnings. So we're entering this kind of like new beginning, this new chapter within a much larger book that is like our story, that is like this lifetime progression that we're in the midst of. And what we're being called to do is to adapt. And since we are not able to interact with the world in the same ways as we have before and allow ourselves to, sense and engage with the illusion of progression, and forward movement and momentum, we are staying home and we are revisiting and being met with things that we must revise and actually break through, because we don't have the chance to actually run away from them, because we're now in this more like confined space, in this space where we're, isolated and have to meet ourselves where we're at, because there's nowhere else to really go, physically speaking. As far as the internal self, we're really working on the emotional body here. We're working on the inner child, the emotional body. It's kind of the same to me as far as things go, generally speaking, of course. And so we're being met with really familiar conflict and friction that we're learning to then transmute and get curious about, to kind of play with. And it's interesting because this has been coming up with a lot of the clients that I've been working with one-on-one, in that, they're being taken back to times when they were younger and they felt a certain kind of way, where they felt anger, they felt scared, or they felt, some darker stuff. And it isn't always necessarily about the darker stuff that we just need to revisit, but also the type of person we were, what our goals were, who we are now versus who we were then, when the world seemed more open and expansive, instead of being in this place where we feel like we know, but we also don't. There's still so much we don't know. With everything that we know, there's another thing we don't know. And just allowing yourself to never become an expert. And so kind of applying that here. So whatever's like re-emerging for you, allowing yourself that creativity in order to look at things in a more multifaceted, multidimensional way. Because we're experiencing, this interesting collapse of time where we're lining lining up with various kind of hit points within our lifetime, and that we're having to then kind of rewrite and reintegrate in a new way. You know, I feel like the more that we're able to adapt and embrace a lot of the stuff that is coming back to visit us again, you know, we don't have to live out the same kind of drama or same type of energy that we experienced before, because we're in this movement of transitioning between two dynamically, like, just different ages of being, you know, the Piscean and the Aquarian age. And we have to see, okay, maybe make a diagram and just be like, okay, well, this is how I handled it then. How do I handle it with this new energy that is at my disposal? You know, with this understanding that I have now, with this, you know, supposed time that I've had under my belt in order to process and to live a certain way through it. I'm getting deja vu. I keep doing that. And so in order to kind of solidify this concept a little bit more, it's interesting because we have this new moon, May 22nd, 2020 at 2 degrees and 4 minutes. And so we have a lot of 2s and 4s. And naturally, as a tarot reader, I want to bring that back into theory, into tarot theory with the major arcana. So we'll have the 2 with the High Priestess, and then we have the 4 with the Emperor. And the 4 represents that, in this case, kind of the more materialized side of things. We're used to looking at things that are tangible and that are real, and kind of being stuck in this world of materialized illusion, so to speak, and not really accounting for everything else that isn't there. Not really taking a look at that and being kind of stubborn in our ways, set in our ways, because, you know, we felt like we've already done this. Felt like we've already done the homework. Why do we have to do it again? And so with that, it's like we're kind of stuck in this routine and this way of doing things and this process. And it's like, well, maybe that process just isn't going to work moving forward. You know, perhaps we need to adopt the idea of the High Priestess, that potential energy. You know, it's like, all right, well, there is potential here. There is something that I can use. How can I expand upon it? What is the undercurrent here that I can then surrender myself to, and allow myself to perhaps receive and be influenced by more than just what I feel like I'm holding on to in this thing that is coming up for me. So again, going back to adaptability, what else can we embrace from this experience and actually play with in order to restructure it and mold it, and, you know, just get in there and get your hands dirty a little bit, instead of trying to just overrule it or become kind of creating kind of a hierarchy and getting over it. How can you be with it and be on an even level, so you can see it, like look the situation in the eyes and understand kind of the heart of what's going on, kind of looking into that window of the soulful essence of what is being presented to you. And a lot of the people that I've been talking to, like I said, I've been kind of experiencing a lot of stuff that brings them back into certain aspects of like their childhood or their teenage years. And instead of looking at the problem, it's like looking at what type of person were you then? Like, what kind of things, where was your ambition? What were your goals? What motivated you? Like, perhaps there is something there that the current you is missing, that the current you just can't quite articulate. And so it takes you being put back into this space in order to remind you and kind of become an emotional time capsule of whatever it is that you feel like is the missing piece to propel you forward and into this new space of being. So be really gentle with yourself, you know, and have just offer kindness to yourself and others as much as you can. Be as graceful as you can through this period, and being like as light on your feet as possible. Not allowing yourself to be chemically reactive, you know, to get into that emotional, like, chemical loop, that circuit that we tend to be really familiar with, and expanding outside of that, really breaking through it to let in a new current. So that's kind of all I have to say there. I'm going to be posting some stuff on my Patreon here soon. I'm writing some new horoscopes. I'm going to do some collective messages on there. I'd love for you to join me. There'll be opportunities for those of you who have businesses and who have things to share with others in order to do that, to create a more conscious marketplace where we can build community virtually and share our unique talents and contributions in a space that is committed to growth and to vibrational being. So yeah, not having to fight any type of like algorithm or system that is put in place, you know, based on the biases of others, as well as the emotional responses and playbacks that are kind of being, that they're seeking to kind of, you know, pull out of us in order to maintain certain narratives in this world. So let's do something new, create something together. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I wish I had more to say, but that's it for now. Bye.